Welcome to Tennis Breakfast, live from Melbourne on 5 Sports Extra.
And your headlines today, starting with Emma Raducanu, because you might just be joining us. She has lost in straight sets to Coco Gauff 6-3, 7-6, but plenty of positives from Raducanu, who before the tournament was a doubt because of that ankle injury. Rafa Nadal is no more. The top seed and defending champion is out, beaten in straight sets by Mackenzie McDonald, but it doesn't tell the full story. He had a hip problem that got worse. He made it to the end. We now wait to see how long he'll be sidelined for. There were, though, wins today for Iga Swiatek, Jessica Pegula, Maria Sakkari and Madison Keys. Frances Tiafoe, Yannick Sinner are all through together. Felix Auger, Ali Assim. But Petra Kvitova, the 15th seed, is out together with former US Open champion Bianca Andreescu. And we now know that Andy Murray will face Thanasi Kokkinakis in the second round of the Australian Open tomorrow. And if you'd like to get in touch with us, we really appreciate hearing from you, what you're doing, what you're up to, comments you might have. Hashtag BBC Tennis or at 5 Live Sports. So the good news is that the weather has cleared up to a point in Melbourne. It might not be one of those Melbourne days that everyone thinks of and the sunshine and you're basking in it. It's wonderful, but it's good enough to allow play to continue. Night has now fallen, but David Law, the good news is that after that delay yesterday from the heat, then the rain and the rain today, we've got a lot of courts with a lot of tennis on them at the moment.
We sure have, Gigi. I tell you what, I'm going to need 2 screens in order to actually see all of them. Let me see, we've got about 9, 10, 11 matches going on all at the same time, 9:15 in the evening. I mean, we could have a seriously late night with a lot of matches going on all at the same time. I mean, just to give you an idea of some of the matches that are out there, Daniil Medvedev is 7-5, 5-2 up on John Millman. We've got Elena Rybakina, the Wimbledon champion, just about to start. Denis Shapovalov's playing, he's early stages. Hubert Hurkacz, as Stefanos Tsitsipas is getting some instructions from umpire Damien Dumassoir at the moment on the Rod Laver Arena. That's what you can hear in the background. Daria Kasatkina is a set down at the moment. She is in real trouble there. 6-1 down first set against Goracheva. We've got, what else? We have Beatrice Haddad-Meyer, who's the 14th seed, early stages of her match, and Marketa Vondrousova, who seems to have been playing Alison Risk for about 3 days. It's 4 games all in the third set, and we have a lot still to look forward to, and we also have Stefanos Tsitsipas's shorts to look at, and they are loud.
Okay,
Gigi,
so
there is a lot going on.
I match his shorts with his opponent, Rinky Hijikata, because they're not exactly dull if you look at the Australian shorts as well. So, but the good news is, having sort of failed to get my colours right in the last match, it will be yourself, David Law, and Mark Woodford who'll be describing the colours on the shorts. Good morning from the UK, and good evening, Mark Woodford.
Good evening, Gigi. I was just trying to I guess I misheard you. Did you say Hijikata?
No, I said Rinky Hijikata.
Okay.
What?
Because they're not very rigid shorts, are they? I mean, they're very loud up both ends. So it's like down the hallway here, I'm sure there are some paintbrushes that have been left after a few swipes on Tsitsipas's shorts. What do you think, David?
I mean, Hijikata looks like he's been attacked by my kids when they're doing their art in the front room, to be honest.
But I am going to support the Australian in his clothing attire, because I picked up my kit a few days ago and I found the same pair of shorts and shirt.
I hope you sent them back.
You're going to be wearing those?
I just paraded them around in my hotel room. I was looking in the mirror for quite some time just to see whether they matched my red hair and
also,
fair skin.
I mean, I'm not trying to be mean, but you know, aren't those are a sort of young man's shorts, aren't they?
David, don't offend the guest.
I could wear them on the beach, maybe.
Yep, we could do that. What are they? Speckly pink and blue.
They do have that splash of pink in there, but coordinated he is, Hijikata, and he's going to have to be very coordinated tonight against Tsitsipas.
It's like a Jackson Pollock painting, the shorts of Hijikata. We've just got visions of you parading around in your hotel room in your sort of strangely brightly coloured shorts there. Now, a word before we get stuck into Tsitsipas Hijikata about the news of Rafa Nadal, Woody, and that injury. And yes, he made it to the end of the match, and Mackenzie McDonald played some superb stuff, but so unfortunate for Nadal.
It certainly is. I'm not quite across what he has announced with the injury. Would you maybe give
we know
it's
a hip problem that he said had been bothering him for a couple of days before the match. It got a lot worse during the match, but in terms of exactly what it is, we spoke to his publicist Benito. Obviously they've got to go off for more tests, but he left the court for treatment and was just in a lot of discomfort.
I think in doing some prep work for this particular match, and I know all eyes were on the progress of Emma Raducanu there, but it was just floating around. There was just some chatter of whether Nadal was going to make any further announcement, for the rest of the year or even the rest of his life. So perhaps if he's spoken just about that hip concern, we might get to see Nadal again in 2023, which would be great.
Yeah, it's all thoughts about the clay, isn't it? You can't imagine him stopping anywhere but the clay, whether it be Roland Garros this year, whether it be when the Olympics take place and are held in Paris and take place at Roland Garros. So we'll let anybody know if we hear anything or anything comes out. But again, it's evening time in Australia, so we probably won't hear anything more today. Now, Woody, I know you have your little black book, or is it blue book? That sort of thing that was falling to pieces that contains notes and bits and pieces. That was
version 1, yes.
Oh, right.
Yep.
Do we have do you still do that?
I have 2, yes. Right. But alas, I just don't have them here in the booth with me. And I guess that you were going to ask a question of what do I have on Rinky Hijikata?
Absolutely. You read my mind. Mm-hmm. Do you have anything on Rinky Hijikata?
I actually don't know, because he is so new. If I did have anything, it would be basically fun to watch. I think he brings so much to the court. The few times that I have seen him play, and an exciting journey.
It's lucky we've got David Law alongside you, because he's going to be keeping you company and telling us, I'm sure, a lot more about Rinky Hijikata, David, as they get underway.
Yeah, and he really is new on the scene for us as an international audience here in Australia. But my word, did he light the place up a couple of nights ago when he came back from 2-0 down to win through to this matchup against Stefanos Tsitsipas, who's the experienced player of the two, 24 years of age, but Hijikata is 21. He's ranked 169 in the world. He's never been at this sort of stage. He's never been on this sort of stage. It's the Rod Laver Arena, his home fans, and he's going to try and light this place up. And he starts by winning the first point of the match, and the crowd love it as Tsitsipas hooks his forehand cross-court and out. Okay, I think it's fair to say we're in Australia.
Yeah, we get that call out early. The fans have to be spread out at the moment because John Millman is playing on Margaret Court Arena, not too far away from RLA.
Forehand hit cross-court by Hijikata, who's a lovely balance athlete. And my word, as he just crashed the backhand down the line for a clean winner and punctuated it with a clenched fist, and he's got love 30 on the Tsitsipas serve immediately.
Well, the backhand is one of the stronger shots for Hijikata. He had to stretch there, reach for the backhand, but it's a shot that he favours, that one up the line.
Yeah, really did hit that nicely. He slapped at a forehand into the net there as Hijikata, who was 6-4, 6-4 down against Yannick Hanfremann in the opening round, but came back to win the next 3 sets, 6-3, 7-6, 6-3, for his first Grand Slam match win, and the first time he'd ever even beaten 5 sets. So what a moment for him. Not a big man. He's certainly much the shorter of the two, but he comes in behind a big forehand on the line. He's underneath the lob. He smashes, but into the tape of the net, and that'll frustrate him because that would have given him 15-40, and now it's 30-all.
And you have to spare a thought for him. Like any newcomer onto such a big arena, the first 5 minutes, maybe 2-3 games, David, they're somewhat nervous, and when you win the first couple of points in the manner that he did, sometimes that makes you a little more, adds more tension to your game. That was a ball he should have put away.
Forehand return is deep and cross-court from Hijikata. Big forehand cross-court, and I think Tsitsipas quite knows what he's in for here just yet. He's going to work out as he goes along. Here's a backhand cross-court from Hijikata. Thinks about coming into the net, changes his mind, stays at the back. Maybe he should have done, because he's just whipped a low backhand into the net.
It is a feature of Hijikata's game. He's not shy about moving forward, which is, for some players in my generation, it's good to see that there are some current players from Australia that are exploring the transition to the net.
Yeah, sight for sore eyes, really, isn't it? I do feel like it's coming back into the game more. Not serve and volley, really, that like Mark's day. But certainly realising the advantages of trying to keep short points and get into the net, change the angles, change the look as the Hijikata forehand hits the net and Tsitsipas takes a 1-love lead. Yeah, heard a lot about from Coco Gauff, who we've just seen beat Emma Raducanu, talking about how she's been working in the off-season about getting to the net, seeing a lot of Sebastian Korda, the young American. He's going to the net 40-odd times a match these days after those big ground strokes. That's the sort of trend that seems to be building.
Well, you have to have different plans. You know, it's great that a lot of the younger players come out with their A game and they go for the lines, for the corners. They really foot on the accelerator as far as ball striking speed, but if that's not working, you have to be able to temper it down and maybe add in some different tactics, which is exploring the net.
Now the players have changed ends, so in our low down vantage point in the commentary box, right at the back of the court on the ground, we can see Stefanos Tsitsipas and his wild shorts hitting ground strokes, and he's benefited from Hijikata hitting an unforced error. Tsitsipas really burst on the scene here at this tournament, beating Roger Federer a few years ago, and he was just 20 years of age, now 24. And he returns with a forehand deep, but too deep, long.
Has a strong serve, Hijikata, for his size, standing at 5'10", but the serve is something that does shine bright, and it was a weapon of his in the first round, that 5-set victory. There we go, ace down the tee. Usually it happens in reverse, David. We talk about a particular shot, and then on the next point it fails them and makes us sound and a little ordinary, but
well, that happens to us, but you Australians always do things the other way around. So, you know, you say something and it happens. Lovely. 30-15 Hijikata at the far end of the court. He's wearing an orange baseball cap. Even though it's late at night, as he hits his forehand cross-court, maybe helps with the lights as well. Forehand on the line from him, backhand hit cross-court by Tsitsipas. He reaches this ball, clips it up into the air, high backhand volley cross-court by Hijikata. It's beautiful. He is fun to watch.
Yeah, and as he puts away the backhand volley, winning the point, the fist pump towards the crowd. He was so emotional, in a frenzy during his first round match, and probably got a little overexcited and experienced some cramps in that match.
Hijikata with the big serve out wide, and you heard what he thought about it as he saw the forehand go long from Tsitsipas. Crowd are right with him early on here, 1 game all.
A lot of the crowd there clapping, as directed by some of the fans there.
Yep.
Just wonder whether Mark Philippoussis would have been clapping hands, because he is coaching, helping, guiding Team Tsitsipas.
Trying to get a word in edgeways next to Apostolos, the dad.
Yes, I noticed that there is a seat, 2 seats. No, just the 1 seat between them.
Yeah.
You need some space.
It must be an interesting coaching role for Mark Philippoussis. In comes the forehand volley of Tsitsipas. He's at the net. Passing shot cross-court, very nicely struck by Hijikata, who's got love 15 on the Greek serve here. 1 game all at the start of the match. I mean, I'm joking about it, but actually Mark Philippoussis was commentating during the United Cup a couple of weeks ago on Tsitsipas's match.
Wow.
And at one point, I mean, I'm not a huge fan of that, generally speaking, because I think, well, how objective can you really be? But to be fair to Mark Philippoussis, he just said what he thought, it seemed to me. And the gist of it was, I'll tell you in a second, forehand cross-court by Tsitsipas as Hijikata nets, 15-all. The gist of it was, just let him get on with it, will you?
In regards to
Mr. Apostolos?
To Dad.
You know, because
Yes.
he just would not shut up. Tsitsipas had just won a 6-love set, and Apostolos' dad was just badgering in his ear, telling him a million things.
and we have seen
Mark
that before.
Philippoussis was like, what is there to say?
Yeah. It's something that maybe will be addressed in the coming season.
Forehand crashed cross-court by Tsitsipas at this near end. We get a real example of just how good these players are from this low-down position. And beautiful backhand struck down the line by Hijikata. And it wrong-footed Tsitsipas. He's not used to the patterns of this guy yet. He's an incredible mover, Tsitsipas, for a guy of 6'4".
Yeah.
But he wasn't getting anywhere near that.
Yeah, I agree in a big way. He is... He glides around the court, an exceptional mover, laterally as well as moving towards the net.
15:30 here on the Tsitsipas serve. Oh dear. The ball is smacked into the advertising as the forehand goes long this time from Hijikata, and a shake of the racket from Tsitsipas in the direction of his dad and Mark Philippoussis. Well, I mean, look, generally speaking, I think he's got a team that's relatively settled now after about 8 months of Mark Philippoussis' involvement, and I don't think Dad is going anywhere. Stefanos wants him there, but I don't always feel convinced that it works as well as it might, as a forehand hit cross court by Hijikata and out. What do you think, Mark?
Well, you know, just in response to the statement you made of, you know, Stefanos wants his dad there, I wonder at times whether he actually does. It's just my observation.
Maybe he doesn't know how to tell him to
Yes.
go.
I think that is maybe too quick of an assumption, or too suggestive. But
right.
I think he's been a terrific guide and a terrific help to Stefanos' career, and he will always be his dad.
Off the top of the net from Hijikata, and now a chance for the pass down the line. Here comes Hijikata running down the ball. Umpiring it down the line, but I think he's just missed. Wide it's gone. The index finger is out from Damien Demassoir, the umpire, and the crowd thought that Hijikata had made a passing shot into the corner, but no, just wide, Gigi. So 2-1 Tsitsipas first set.
Big groan from the crowd as they realise it wasn't to be. So on serve early stages there, Daniil Medvedev on the Margaret Court Arena first match of the night session is in a comfortable position now against John Millman. 2 sets and 2-love up in the third. Remember that, just if you break the draw into 4 quarters, that top quarter, Nadal was the highest seed, Medvedev the second highest seed, so Medvedev can try and take control of that little chunk of the draw. They'll be followed by Daniel Collins, last year's finalist. A little update on the Kia Arena. There were 5 matches scheduled originally. They've moved one, and what that means is Cameron Norrie probably will play today, because he follows the Marta Kostyuk match. It is in the third game of the first set. We saw Thanasi Kokkinakis go through heel face. He only came out and played 2 games against Fabio Fognini. He plays Andy Murray tomorrow, so we're keeping an eye on that. Jason Kubler, despite winning that 70-shot rally against Karen Khachanov, he is out. The Aussie, the Russian, the 18th seed, going through in 4. And Elena Rybakina, who doesn't seem to be happy with court placements. I mean, she is the Wimbledon champion after all, and she sort of gets bunged all over the place. She is, though, today on the John Cain Arena. She's up against Kaia Juvan, and she has points for 3-1 in the first set. There is so much tennis taking place. I'll try and keep you up to date. Did we tell you that Brandon Holt, Tracy Austin's son, he's gone through in 5 against Alexander Vukic? I'll keep an eye on everything that's taking place, because there is an awful lot around Melbourne Park.
Thank you very much, Gigi. Yeah, there sure is a lot going on around Melbourne Park at the moment, and it's been a funny old day of weather again. Lots of rain, and quite cool for Melbourne standards, but I'm not going to complain about it, because I know what it's like in the UK just at the moment. Forehand hit cross-court by Hijikata, then a backhand cross-court that Tsitsipas meets with that flourish of a backhand, then down the line from him. He's stepping on it now, and he goes cross-court this time, but Hijikata showing great movement! Counter-attacking ability with a backhand winner down the line.
Brilliant. Nice and clean with the two-hander up the line, and it is a shot, David, that the coach of Rinky, Mark Draper, was chatting to him a little earlier today. He said that that's a shot that he's going to favour. He's going to try and work on tonight, is that two-hander backhand up the line. We know that Tsitsipas generally likes to hover over on the ad court in rally mode.
Yeah, that's a good point. There's a forehand volley by Hijikata, who's serving a volley. Now he's lobbed, and there's Tsitsipas on the net. Instead, as he lobs his opponent, rushes in, polishes off the forehand volley.
And I hope that you get excited, because I certainly do when I see Tsitsipas come to net. I think it's an area of the court that if he is going to break the hoodoo as far as a Grand Slam victory, holding a trophy, perhaps closing in on the #1 ranking, that he has to be comfortable up at net many more times than we've seen in the past.
Really, that's very interesting. Backhand block return by Tsitsipas goes long. 2-1 he leads first set. How good is he at it, at the skill of net play, from what you've seen?
Tsitsipas, I go back to a number of years ago. Remember when he came out against Roger Federer in the second round here? He threw everything at Roger that particular night, picked up a massive victory, but he won from the net. He took time away from Federer. And you know, we see sprinkling of the option of moving forward, but I feel like Mark Philippoussis is the person to help just get him to be more confident in employing those tactics more often.
Hijikata at 40-15 here with 2 points for 2 games all. He played college tennis, did Hijikata, represented the University of North Carolina for a couple of years, earning All-American honours as a sophomore. At the top 200 for the first time in August of last year. And then got up to a career high of 159 in October. He's now 169. Serves that into the body, does Hijikata. Then a forehand down the line. He's so balanced. He's a lovely mover as he hits the top of the net with that forehand as he tried to go over the high part of the net from his backhand corner. But I mean, he's not tall, is he? And he's fairly slight, but he just tiptoes around the baseline.
Yeah, it stands at 5'10", and probably that's something moving forward that he has to learn to develop a game. How will he beat marquee players like Tsitsipas? You can't just rely upon being, you know, competitive and move around the baseline extremely well. You've got to have weapons, and that first serve, there it is again, is one of those weapons. An ace up the tee.
Good holder serve, 2 games all. He's holding his own against Stefanos Tsitsipas. He looks like he likes this stage. I mentioned he was a college player. A lot of the players who went through college like that sort of up and at 'em atmosphere.
Well, Mark Draper said that he has, through the period of time that Mark Draper has known him, Rinky's never shied away about the spotlight or the belief that he has himself. It's not something that he doesn't strut around the court or anything, but he just believes that he can, keep improving, and he works on his game very diligently. But you saw the emotion that it came out of Rinky in the first round.
Yeah. And I sense that this crowd are right in the palm of his hands right now. They're ready to get behind an Aussie on this court. And if he can give them something to feed off. Backhand on the line by Tsitsipas. 2 games all. He's trying to keep them quiet. Tsitsipas, as he hits his chip backhand, floats it into the corner. Inside out forehand struck by Hijikata. Then cross court on the forehand. Big hitting here from Tsitsipas. Great movement from Hijikata. But there's the volley from Tsitsipas. The net play, the coverage. The get past me if you can mentality that Mark Woodford has been looking for from the Greek.
And I love what you just said about the presence up at net at 6'4". You think about the wingspan, David, when he does arrive at net. He is a very tough man to pass, but you have to position yourself as well in order to cover or shut down the court.
Forehand blasted back at Tsitsipas by Hijikata, but in comes Tsitsipas, and he's befuddled by a little dink at his feet from Hijikata, who then points at his coach as if to say, you taught me that one.
Yeah, I think that as well has been a message coming from the team of Hijikata. It's not necessarily to go for the outright pass. Make your opponent play, and that's exactly how that point unfolded. Little wry smile on Mark Draper.
Yeah, he enjoyed that one, didn't he? 30-15 here, Tsitsipas. This is a really fun start to this night session match. 2 games all early on here. Daniil Medvedev is closing in on victory against another Australian, John Millman. Forehand cross-court by Hijikata. Deep, too deep.
You say that result with John Millman, and was watching it earlier as well. John was very competitive in that first set. Long and lengthy rallies, but he just doesn't have the game. He stays on the baseline. He doesn't transition to the net well, and if he does go to net, he's not comfortable at net, and that's the difference for Rinky Hijikata. He loves going to the net.
Wow, what a backhand on the line from Tsitsipas. Just unleashed and hit the line. So 3-2 he leads. It's on serve at the moment. And this is a good start. I'm enjoying it.
Yeah, I think in these 5 games, certainly Tsitsipas, you mentioned it earlier as well, he may not know the patterns, the angles that Hijikata can execute. He's still new to a lot of the top players, Hijikata, but Rinky, there's a lot of vision out there of the top players, isn't there? If you study, you do your homework.
It's a difference, isn't it?
Yeah.
What did you used to do back in the day? when you didn't have necessarily YouTube clips of every player in the world.
Wouldn't that have been brilliant to have some of the data that the players are using now? But again, Gigi we were having a little joke about it. We kept a book on the players. Ray Ruffles, who looked after Todd and myself. So when we played a singles match or a doubles match, we'd just sit down and maybe just a couple of notes on the player or doubles team, and then you can just refer back to those notes when you face the same player.
We were talking about earlier on how Mark Philippoussis coaches Stefanos Tsitsipas now. I'm very curious to know what you had in your book written down for, 1996? When you faced Mark Philippoussis here at the Australian Open, Mark Woodford. We'll get into that in a second. Here's a forehand crashed cross-court by Tsitsipas. Big forehand cross-court by Hijikata. It's 3-2 Tsitsipas first set on serve. Great start from Hijikata in this match. Backhand on the line is an absolute beauty from Tsitsipas. Wow.
And he finished the last game with a similar backhand up the line.
And so Philippoussis has just gone and knocked out the world number 1, Pete Sampras.
Yes,
he's on the front page of every newspaper. He's been hyped to the hilt by everybody in the country. And then he faces Mark Woodford.
Who said, no, 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 you're not going any further, Philippoussis. You will get your time, but not this year.
What was in your book?
My memory is shattered. I'm sorry, David.
The clip cross court by Hijikata, missed by Tsitsipas down the line. 3-2 Tsitsipas here, 15 all. But you figured out a way to beat him. I mean, you know, he was back then. He hit the ball as hard as the various biggest hitters do today, which is saying something.
He did. Look, they're probably in a short response try to absorb the pace, but again, use something in my game that I could win with. I couldn't match him with power, so I had to be able to absorb it, but then also get to net. That was a strength of mine, was trying to get to net and finish points with a volley, and I think I probably executed decently that day.
Yeah, I think so. Backhand slice into the net by Hijikata, who's at 15-30 here, so a little bit of pressure on his serve.
Is the first game, would you say, for Hijikata that he's now in this situation at 15-30?
Yep.
He's played the 2 service games that he's won so far from the front. And these are the moments right now of how you handle the adversity, what's in front of you.
And the undulations of not only a 5-set match, but even a single set in front of your crowd like this. He's come out, everybody's excited, he's playing out of his mind, and then suddenly the match settles down a bit and it goes a little quieter until he hits a big forehand when across court and everybody gets excited again. But I mean, it's not a sprint tennis, is it? You could win some flashing, amazing rallies, but they're only worth a couple of points.
Yep, the point value remains the same. Difference between the Tour and the Grand Slams, best of 3 sets. You only play 5 matches in that 1 week, and it's almost like a sprint from the first point to the end.
Forehand return down the line by Tsitsipas, off the top of the net by Hijikata. A little bit of an adjustment in the step from Tsitsipas to stay in the rally. Off the top of the net again from Hijikata. Comes back his own side, though. This is the first break point of the match for Tsitsipas.
And at Grand Slams, best of 5-set format, 7 matches spread over the 2 weeks. It's more of a staying race, but you do go through those undulations, highs and lows.
So, serve out wide from Hijikata, break point down. Another adjustment step from Tsitsipas, who's on the back foot here, hitting his backhand on the line. Lovely shot. And it draws the error, and he's broken Tsitsipas. So, 3-2 for the Greek, becomes 4-2. And that's what he wants, isn't it? He keeps the crowd quiet, and that backhand that he's hitting at the moment is being struck with real authority.
It would be a tough decision for many opponents. Which side do you focus on when facing Tsitsipas? The backhand, he has that variation of between slice and coming over the top of the ball. The forehand is generally the shot that does a lot of damage. It's a much more offensive shot in his repertoire.
Hit return down the middle from Hijikata, and he goes down the line, but he's miscued that. We just had the order of play come out for tomorrow. Andy Murray is the second night session match on the Margaret Court Arena, so that means it's going to be morning time in the UK on Thursday, and he's going to be facing Thanasi Kokkinakis, the Australian, who's finding some form.
Yes, unfortunately finding some form, but at the same time his ranking has gone south.
Yeah, but he looked like he was struggling at the end of last year in the Davis Cup. He really didn't play particularly well, but yeah, last couple of weeks it started to come back for him. Hijikata's hitting the net with a big forehand on the line, and suddenly the scoreboard has just run away from Hijikata. From 2 games all, it was all going so well, and now a point for 5-2 for Tsitsipas. A little chip return by Hijikata and a forehand whipped cross-court by Tsitsipas for 5-2, Gigi.
Right, let's have some news of tomorrow's order. Actually, firstly, David, what's the weather looking like for you guys tomorrow? Any better?
Well, now, I must say, I only looked at the weather forecast yesterday and it still looked pretty ropey. So I'm going to have a very quick look for you, Gigi, and it does say dark clouds, but...
No, you're looking at London.
No, I'm not.
Yes,
Mark,
you are.
Because
it's sun.
Not -4, but it doesn't look. It doesn't look as bad, Gigi. I'm going to say that. I mean, it's 18 degrees, which not exactly hot by Melbourne conditions, but only 14% chance of rain and a 20-mile-an-hour wind, so it could be pretty blustery. But yeah, not as bad.
Honestly, Mark Woodford, when you're in Budapest freezing next month, I'm just going to send you pictures of sort of beaches and hot place and mountains as you're freezing. But let me tell you what is happening, the order of play tomorrow, because we want to know about Andy Murray. Of course we do. Second match of the night session. So that will start 8 a.m. UK time. Second match night session on the Margaret Court Arena. He'll take on Thanasi Kokkinakis. It will follow Belinda Bencic against Claire Liu. It's Novak Djokovic who starts things off on the Rod Laver Arena. His opponent still to be decided. Then it's Marketa Vondrousova against Ons Jabeur. And earlier on, Rod Laver, and it starts with Sabalenka. Then we got Casper Ruud. Then we got Leylah Fernandez against Caroline Garcia. While on Margaret Court Arena, Sasha Zverev will be back out there. Now, poor old Cameron Norrie, he's moving all over the shop at the moment. He was 5th on the Kia Arena. He went 4th on the Kia Arena. Now he's over on court 13. He's going to start in about 10 minutes' time. So when that happens, I believe we're going to have a bit of a juggle going on between Melbourne and the UK. So get set for that. But in the meantime, as the lights just switched off in the room I'm in, I don't know if that's a sign, someone telling me something. It's actually gone quite dark, despite the fact it's sunny outside. We will focus in the meantime on events where the lights are on the Rod Laver Arena.
Well, you're having a better time than Denis Shapovalov, I think, Gigi, who apparently has just told the spectators to shut up.
Has he?
Because they're getting a bit too rowdy. Anyway, he's won the first set. I don't know what his problem is. He won the first set against Taro Daniel, 6-3. It's all happening here at the Australian Open. I mean, I think some of the players have been a bit grouchy, in all honesty, because you know what it's like when it rains and everybody just heads for the locker room and the player lounge, and when it's at the start of the tournament like this, so many players are still in, and you've started off with 128 singles players in both the men's and the women's draws, and then all the doubles players as well, and it's a busy place to be.
I did like the comments, I think it was Jamie Murray that recently made, maybe on social media, but just the frustration of the players, or the schedule starting at 11. And then, you wind that back. The players that are scheduled first up, they arrive probably at 8:30 in the morning, 9 o'clock to prepare. But the schedule's not coming out till very late the last couple of nights. And the suggestion was, why not? Why don't we start later? We have lights here on all of the match courts, and just play into the evening, but don't start at 11 a.m. I think that's valid.
Well, I definitely remember thinking the same thing when they had the really extreme heat a few years ago and they had to stop. And I thought, well, like you say, you've got 20 courts with floodlights on. Why not just play into the evening?
Yeah.
And then you don't have to worry about the heat. Anyway, backhand on the line is missed by Tsitsipas, and Hijikata's trying to get a third game on the board here. It's 5-2 down first set. Crowd have gone a bit quiet generally, so the 7 or 8 Australian fanatics in the crowd in their green t-shirts are trying to get people going a bit, but Hijikata's struggling to stay with Tsitsipas just at the moment. He had that flurry of winners and he was showing exactly what he got in the first 4 games, but it's been a little erratic since then.
Yeah, just that little drop in his level. A few unforced errors just starting to enter his game.
Backhand cross-court from him. Tsitsipas swipes with a forehand, but that's a clean out from Hijikata. Lovely shot. So, stays alive in this opening set. Elena Rybakina, the Wimbledon champion, has the first set on the board against Kai Yuvan, 6-2. And Stefanos Tsitsipas, the third seed from Greece, will serve for the opening set after 32 minutes. Blasts it down the middle and hits his forehand on the line, comes into Tsitsipas. Drop volley is gorgeous. Well played, Tsitsipas.
And there's that wingspan. Number one player from Greece arriving at net, and it was a healthy attempt of a passing shot by Hijikata. But Tsitsipas able to anticipate it, and it's a lovely drop volley.
So Cameron Norrie due on court fairly soon, and we'll keep you across that as well. Tsitsipas serving a double fault as he tries to hit deep and with topspin, but puts it a bit too deep.
When you were listening to Mark Philippoussis commentate some of Stefanos' match during the United Cup, did he talk about the second serve? Like, did he try to break down?
That's a good question.
Tsitsipas, some of his shots.
I got the sense the frustration. I don't remember him talking about the serve. The frustration he had was with the return, actually, on the backhand side, as Tsitsipas hits his forehand cross court and Hijikata goes down the middle with his forehand. Massive forehand cross court by Tsitsipas. That's not coming back. That's 30-15, 5-3. He couldn't understand why off full-blooded first serves Tsitsipas was taking full swings on the backhand side, which is such a low percentage shot. The chances of connecting sweetly with that shot he felt were too small, and that he should just be blocking it back, chipping it back, getting it back in court somehow, rather than risking what was happening a lot of the time, which was a top edge out of the stadium. Anyway, Tsitsipas performing pretty nicely here. 2 set points, 40-15. Kicks up the second serve and hits his forehand cross court. Hijikata doing well to even get to the ball, but that's long by Tsitsipas. So first of 2 set points have come and gone. What do you think of his second serve? Needs a lot of work, or?
It does. I always try to watch Stefanos' ball toss. If he starts to travel or move in order to make contact with it, then there is an issue, and I think that usually draws down the level of the serve. Not on that one, though. That's a first serve. Flush on the line, David.
And that's given him the sets. The Greek flags are fluttering in the crowd, and actually, as you said that, Mark, it brings back some words from the great American commentator Mary Carrillo, who said about Tsitsipas, if you need good footwork for a serve, something's wrong.
Yes, and he has had moments where he has to travel quite a way. It's almost like a step and a half or a shuffle to chase down that ball toss. But when it is synchronized, like a lot of players, it's usually the pole that holds the tent up, and when it's working well is generally when Tsitsipas is at his best.
Yeah, 6-3, he's won that first set, got 56% of his first serves in, and the main thing is he got the job done. 8 winners, 7-4 Stereoshishi, and Tsitsipas has the first set on the board.
David, thank you very much. So we're going to be juggling things around very shortly. Mark just sent me a picture of the weather in Budapest. Well, it's cold, isn't it? So you do have to go and dig out your thermals, because that's going to be a change from Melbourne. But before that, we are going to wriggle things around in the commentary box, because Cameron Norrie, we thought he wasn't going to play today. He is going to play today. He's gone from 5th to 4th to now on court 13. So that's going to happen. So the British number one on court very, very shortly. But the big news from today. The two headlines, really, if we're picking one out for the men's and the women's. On the women's side of things, it's Emma Raducanu losing to the world number 7 Coco Gauff. Played well, but straight says Gauff would hold her nerve in that second set to come through. And on the men's side of the draw, it is the defeat of Rafa Nadal that doesn't tell the story. A hip problem he'd had before flared up during the match against Mackenzie McDonald, who was playing so well against Nadal. He didn't retire Nadal. He wasn't the same, and he would lose in straight sets. And afterwards, when he came into press, and he came into press pretty quickly, he was asked about the disappointment that he feels.
Yeah, you can imagine. I mean, I don't need to to talk and explain the feelings. Was not the right moment to have something like this now. But at the end, you need to keep going, you know. It's sometimes it's frustrating, sometimes it's difficult to accept. Sometimes you feel super tired about all this stuff in terms of injuries. Yeah, can't come here or can come here and say lying that the life is fantastic and staying positive and keep fighting. Not now. Tomorrow starts another day. But now it's a tough moment. It's a tough day, and you need to accept that and keep going. You know, in the end, I can't complain about my life at all. So just in terms of sports and in terms of injuries and tough moments, I mean, that's another one. And just can't say that I am not destroyed mentally at this time, because I will be lying. So yeah.
Your heart goes out to Rafa Nadal, who's the top seed here, and his wife was actually in tears when he left for the off-court medical timeout to diagnose exactly what was going on, if he could continue. You saw her wipe away the tears with a tissue that was handed to her. Daniil Medvedev, who's in that top quarter of the draw, is the second high seed after Nadal. He is through against John Millman, 7-5, 6-2, 6-2. As we mentioned, Cameron Norrie is to come very shortly, but our focus until then, and then that's when the juggling comes into play. Stefanos Tsitsipas, Rinky Hijikata is what we're focusing on, because Norrie hasn't come on court yet. So stay with us. You're not going to miss out on the British number 1. We've still got Tsitsipas on court, and I have with me, sort of in the ether, but in Melbourne, in reality, Mark Woodford. So, Mark Woodford, as we see a break point in the first game for Stefanos Tsitsipas, is there anything that the Australian can do to kind of stem the flow and get a foothold in this match?
Yeah, yes, and I believe he feels that he can have an impact in this game. Speaking to Mark Draper a little earlier about his protege's belief in how he's going to progress, and he says he always walks onto the court feeling like he can pick up a victory. He hasn't had too many matches against the elite. This is only the third player in the top 10 that he's faced in his career, but he certainly has to come up with those answers quickly, Gigi, because he has just dropped serve.
Yeah, he has, but that's a big thing, isn't it? The attitude of a player and the body language. And if he can stay positive, he gives himself a chance. It's when you see the shoulders go down and the negativity comes in that you start to fear for a player, especially one as experienced as Hijikata.
Yeah, well, I think first for Rinky is, you know, now through his, second Grand Slam that he's playing here, understanding how to navigate his way through that 5-set match, coming back from 2 sets to love. It was 4.5 hours, and you know, yesterday his body was feeling okay. They were quite happy with how he had responded. It was waking up earlier today where he was a little sore, and so he had to spend some time, you know, getting his body awake and ready to play this particular match. And I think that's what's, you know, happened so far, Gigi. You know, he was all brilliant pieces of moments of brilliance up until 3-2, and then I think it's caught up with him, maybe feeling a little battle weary. Plus, Tsitsipas is striking the ball solid.
Yeah, he certainly is. Just a lovely off backhand, though, from Hijikata to take the point. The first point in the second game, this on the Tsitsipas serve. Tsitsipas, number 4 in the world in terms of best players, 3rd seed here. Everyone bumped up one in the absence of Carlos Alcaraz, and 3-time Australian Open semi-finalist. I sometimes forget about that semi-final in 2019 when he lost to Nadal. The last 2 he's lost at the hands of Daniil Medvedev. 42 minutes on the clock. Where are we? Just gone past 10 o'clock in the evening in Melbourne. Plenty of action still to be played as Mark Philippoussis and Apostolos Tsitsipas might have a chair between them, but having a good old discussion. Apostolos has got his hand on Mark Philippoussis' knee. I mean, they're really chatting some over there. Into the body of Hijikata goes Tsitsipas. He takes a big swing at that inside-out forehand. He gallops towards the net. He volleys away. He just, when he's playing well, Tsitsipas, he glides around the tennis court.
He does. It flows nicely, doesn't it? And you know, he is very solid when he is up at net. Able to angle that forehand volley into the open court.
So 30-15, Tsitsipas reaches up with those sort of leery shorts and then just the block of the white on the top and the black headband as he slices the ball off the backhand side. Now with Fawn, he's moving Hijikata from side to side, but he overcooks it, Tsitsipas, and it's 30-all. And there's a homemade poster that says, "Oi, oi, oi, Hijikata." And we're going to hear the Aussie fans.
Well, they have gone a little silent. I think they were super excited with the way that he opened the proceedings, but the last 10-15 minutes he's just gone off enough, and they have not been quite as vocal.
That was downforce there from Tsitsipas off the return serve that did come quick and low to the Greek player, but he skewed that off forehand. An immediate break back point for the Australian, who's, where is he? He's 169 in the world, career high of 159. That was October last year. And as we touched on, what he's so inexperienced at this level, just looking for his 3rd tour level win. Got one in the first round here in Australia, got one in Los Cabos last year. Big serving from Tsitsipas, big fist pump, and he saves the break points.
And he actually started cramping, Gigi, in the 3rd set of his first round match against Humphrey. He was down and out, and he said to his coach afterwards that, you know, the cramps arrived, but he felt in a way to help himself get through it was to kind of get into this frenzied state, and it really woke his body up, and he thinks it made a huge difference to him actually getting through that match.
I think that's incredible, finding a way just to stave off the cramp, because how many times when it starts, there's nothing you could do. You start to get stressed, that makes the situation worse, and then, oh, it's horrible.
Mm-hmm.
Second break point opportunity for the Australian. Big serving from Tsitsipas, gets a mid-court ball, flips it cross-court, 1-2 punch, played to perfection, and the break point saved.
The serve and the forehand did plenty of damage for Tsitsipas in his first round victory. That was straight sets. Only took 2 hours to take out Quentin Alice.
And he'll become the world number 1, Tsitsipas, if he wins the title. There's a few players in the mix, including the current incumbent, who could stay there, Alcaraz, as Tsitsipas floating forward, nets off the backhand. Another opportunity for Hijikata to break the Tsitsipas serve, and that time he fist pumped towards the Aussie fans, who then jumped up onto their feet and shouted their encouragement.
Well, I think we might see Hijikata try to wake himself up, and maybe the crowd as well, if he can pick up this break back on the next point. And a little different as well. He has a second serve to return now.
Tsitsipas, those low bounces of the ball looking down. Hijikata on the baseline, inside the baseline, plays the backhand cross-court. Inside in goes Tsitsipas. Well found, well played. Those little roars coming from Tsitsipas as a 3rd break point saved. Covered in sweat, Tsitsipas. You can see his white top is stuck to him. Beads of sweat on his forehead. Coming up to 6 minutes, the duration on just this second game of the second set, as Tsitsipas looks to consolidate his early break. Look up, look down from Tsitsipas. Hijikata took that really stepped in. He's having to retreat back to the Melbourne side now, the Australian players. He stays on his forehand side, moved across to the double-handed backhand cross-court to the Tsitsipas one-handed flick that loops up off the sidelines, low over the net from Hijikata. Into the net comes Tsitsipas. Oh, he went for the pass. The Australian, he wasn't far off, and it was the right shot to play. He doesn't make it, and it's game point.
Advantage, Tsitsipas.
Well, the shot was there. A little opening had appeared up the line. And just could not navigate the height of the net.
He cannot believe it, shaking his head towards his box. He knew that was an opportunity. After 3 break points, it's now game point for Two Love. Deep into the body goes Tsitsipas, half volley off the Greek shoelaces. He was sort of a sitting duck at the net, but luckily for him, Hijikata goes into the net off the forehand side. And it is Two Love and a consolidation of his early break. Now, as we get to know Rinky Hijikata, he has named, Mark Woodford, his favourite superhero. Who do you think that might be for the Australian?
Okay.
How well do you know your superheroes?
Oh, only Superman and Spider-Man, Batman.
Okay, well, that's 3. Okay.
Thor. Is he a superhero? Thor?
4.
No, Thor.
Oh. I thought you said 4, and I thought you've only named 3.
Thor makes 4.
So if we have 4 with Thor, would it be one of those that you think that Hijikata might say is his favourite superhero? He's love 15 on his serve in the
Probably
second.
not. No,
Oh.
probably not.
Oh, wow, okay. But you can't think of any others, that's the problem.
Well, Wonder Woman.
Yes, is a superhero. Would it be right? Okay. Any more?
But that's
Incredible
still
Hulk?
not the one that Rinky... Okay, you're going to have to break the news to me.
Backhand cross-court goes Hijikata. At the end of this point, we will reveal his superhero. Inside in from Tsitsipas. Cross-court goes the Australian, who then takes the pace off the ball with a floated slice-up line. Back up the line with a forehand from Tsitsipas. Into the net from Hijikata, whose favourite superhero is Spider-Man.
Love 13.
I can see
okay.
that. I can sort of see that. Can you? More than Thor.
Well, he's going to have to create a web for his opponent and kind of get stuck.
How good is that?
Yeah, and then try to web. What is it when he presses those around his wrists and the web goes, and he's able to swing forward. That's what Rinky's going to have to do to get to net as well.
Lots of webs and nets in there. Love
Yes.
30, and he's going to have to do it soon. He's going to start weaving his web pretty soon because he's at love 40. Points now for Tsitsipas to go a double break to the good and 3 love up in the second.
Yeah, it's a level that Rinky is, I think, happy that he's in this situation, but he hasn't been exposed to this type of tennis. The match against Medvedev taking place in Los Cabos last year, and then we also saw him in it was a well-received match by the New York crowd at the US Open against Rafa.
Yeah,
But
absolutely.
this is something different again.
Yeah, it's a different level, and that's a backhand that floats long from Hijikata, and that is 3 love. And that is very, very comfortable now for Stefanos Tsitsipas, who is playing at a different level. But of course he's playing at a different level because he is the 3rd seed, he's the world number 4, against a young man, 21 years of age, who's sort of finding his way in the tennis world. But, Mark Woodford, it's about what you take from these experiences. And it's wonderful as an Australian to be playing on the Rod Laver Arena against someone of the calibre of Stefanos Tsitsipas.
Without a doubt. The journey for this young man is just starting. It's developing. Looking at his record last year with only the 3 tournaments that he played at tour level, but spent most of the season playing challenger level. And it's those moments at challenger level where perhaps you go through a bit of a down period in a match, and the penalty isn't exaggerated as it is when you're playing at tour level, let alone Grand Slam level. And he's finding out now, after that little drop in form, his level just a rung or two from 2 games apiece, and he's now being made to pay for it dearly, just picking up 1 game. And Tsitsipas has a real strong lead at the moment.
Yeah, he looks comfortable, doesn't he? So Cameron Norrie, the British number 1, due out on court 13 in about 5 minutes time. We will bring you coverage of that, but as I say, they're yet to come on court. Daniel Collins, Karolina Muchova are warming up on the Margaret Court Arena. Marta Kostyuk is a couple of games away from going through to the 3rd round. Lena Rybakina, the Wimbledon champion, 6-2, 4-1 against Kaya Juvan, so comfortable there. Lorenzo Sonego is a set-up and on-serve early stages against the 10th seed Hubert Hurkacz. There is still so much tennis to be played. And Denis Shapovalov, having yelled at someone in the crowd because I think he thought they'd had 1 too many beers, is a set and 3-all points for 4-3 on serve against Taro Daniel. Doubles was due to get underway, but as I say, everything's been pushed back a little bit. Daria Kasatkina, the 8th seed, she has fallen in straight sets to Gracheva. Wow, just 2 games Kasatkina won. And Enzo Kouakou, the Frenchman, will face Novak Djokovic on the Rod Laver Arena tomorrow evening. So they are getting through the matches. It is 10:15 in the evening. There are floodlights on the court. The tennis can continue, but too many errors, Woody, at the moment, coming off the racket of Hijikata.
Yep, those numbers are starting to creep up. I have him down as 15 so far in the match. It's not a ton, but the difference between winners and unforced errors is not helping him. And then, of course, Tsitsipas, his ratio is so much brighter.
40-11.
Yeah, he's keeping it a lot cleaner, Stefanos Tsitsipas, who I feel he's another one of those that sort of come into this a little bit under the radar. Maybe it's just I haven't really spoken about him. I feel that about Casper Ruud, who's at number 2, and here's Tsitsipas at number 3, and I feel that the conversations have been those in and around them. But maybe with Rafa Nadal going out today and Nick Kyrgios pulling out, the conversation will start to focus more on the other players, as there's a service return winner from the Australian to get a point in game number 4. We have to remember.
Tsitsipas was in some good form, though, Gigi, heading into the AO. Not losing a match at the United Cup, beating Goffin, Dimitrov, Koric, and Berrettini. So some pretty well-established names there that he inflicted defeat.
Yeah, and he's a 3-time semi-finalist here, so he likes these courts and how they play. Last year, he recorded more tour-level match wins, Tsitsipas, than any other player. 61 wins to 24 defeats. And if nothing else, really, that is an awful lot of tennis that he played.
Yeah. Yeah, I wondered, do you think at some stage that maybe, you know, he could drop a tournament off this year's schedule, one or two perhaps? You think he was maybe fatigued at some majors or some big events?
It's interesting, isn't it? Because isn't it the case as the lob goes up from Tsitsipas and Hijikata keeps it in play, but it's a mid-court ball and Tsitsipas is there, and then he covers up with a volley, Tsitsipas, and takes the first point of game 5. It's interesting, though, isn't it? With players, you get those that they need to be playing all the time. They don't want to stop. Others that have to sort of reduce it a bit. It's very specific to the type of player and how they function.
Yep.
Tsitsipas, a couple of titles for him as well. He actually reached 7 finals last year, but the 2 titles he picked up were backing up his Monte Carlo Masters title, and he also won in Mallorca. But 7 finals, 61 wins. Backhand. Slight miss hit from Tsitsipas, but it was good and deep, and it bounced up high and it drew the air, and now it's love 30, and it's kind of, you want to start, if you're an Australian fan, sort of watching this from behind your hands, because it's not looking good for Hijikata.
Yeah, it's the distance is now getting a little larger. Hijikata is just walking over to his player box and, you know, having a few words with them as well. Might be, please help.
Yeah, and they'll be like, can't do that. What words? I mean, they can now coach from the box, but I don't know, what do you say at this situation? Stay positive, keep your... I mean, what else can be said in this situation?
Yeah, exactly. And, there's another
40.
solid return. Tsitsipas sending it to deep, and Hijikata not able to really... The spring in his step has disappeared. He's not able to move even over to some of these shots. He's arriving a tad late, and of course then he makes the mistake.
He's won 22 of the 30 points in this second set, Tsitsipas, and he's got points here for a triple break and a 5-love lead. He wants it as he cuts under the ball down the line. Tsitsipas flicks that backhand cross-court and deep. It draws the air, and there it is. It is the triple break. It is a 5-love lead, and he is totally in control. And Woody again, Hijikata, as he gets his towel, he goes over to his box, but what do they say? And now I think it kind of makes it harder for you guys as coaches, because before, when you couldn't say anything and you think, well, I wouldn't know what to say, you could look at your feet, but now you're allowed to say something. If your charge goes over, you've actually got to think of something to say, which in this situation might be quite tricky.
Well, exactly, and that's the relationship that you have to build with your player as well, because the understanding that it's not always something that can be said right at a crucial time that is going to make a difference, because all the work should have been done. The understanding of what you need to do, what you need to watch out for, how you handle yourself on the court, hopefully has already been verbalised for Rinky. But to me, it's having spoken to Mark Draper earlier, the coach of Hijikata, Gigi, that they were aware that this was going to be a tall order for him today. But it is about the experiences, and yes, to enter the arena believing you can win, but also conscious that his body was probably just not quite ready for this encounter. But you've got to take the joy. You've got to look at the first round. That was a huge plus for him in the way that he came back from 2-0 down. Great spirit. Let's hope that spirit can return here in, well, maybe for set 3, because the second set is quickly disappearing.
Yeah, it certainly is. 5-love, Tsitsipas on a charge here and looking to close it out and get that 2-0 lead. Tsitsipas with the backhand and the sliding forehand into the net from Hijikata, and Tsitsipas is 3 points from a 2-0 lead. And I remember listening to Marcus Garon's coach as he came in at the start to play Medvedev, and he said we have to remind him that we're also looking at what we're working on. We have to focus on the things we've been working on. If we're not going to get the outcome and we're up against it, focus on what we've been doing. Stick to the process. Stick to what we've been thinking about. And I guess that's the same in the Hijikata camp. There will be things they're looking at, working on, and watching out for.
Exactly. And, saw a little of that Giron-Medvedev match, and Marcus was super competitive for the first 3 games, and I believe he might have even had game point on each of them. But yet the scoreboard at the end of those 3 games, he was love 3 down, and he hasn't had too many opportunities either to be on a big stage, and panic can set in.
Yeah, it certainly can. And Tsitsipas is on an absolute tear right now. He can do no wrong as he closes in on a 2-0 lead. His countryman Maria Sakkari went through in 3 sets earlier today. Big serve, kicks up, can't be handled by Hijikata, and we have set points. It almost feels like in a blink of an eye we've got to the stage where Stefanos Tsitsipas can close out a more than comfortable second set. Down it goes, block back, wide it goes, and there's the set. 6-love. It doesn't mean that the match is done, but very close to being so, because Stefanos Tsitsipas barely broke sweat. Mark Woodford, we've just got 1 hour on the clock, and Stefanos Tsitsipas sits down leading by 2-0.
No doubt with relief, because the first 5 games, I mean, David and I, we were calling that first set, and it was all a lot of excitement, the way that Hijikata was attacking. He came out playing aggressive, found the open court a number of times, and it put gave us a lot of hope and maybe the sense that he could potentially sneak a set. But, well, from that moment on, Tsitsipas was very assured of what he needed to do, and he has just sprinted through the rest of this match now.
Now, this is a little bonus for everyone listening and for ourselves, because I think we were convinced at the start of the day, David, that Cameron Norrie would be going home having not played his match because he was fifth on the Kia Arena. But the wonderful news, everything shuffled around and we have the British #1 on court.
Yeah, we do. And he's up against Constant Lestienne from France. And it is a late old start to a best-of-5 set match, isn't it? 10:15 at night. But here we are on court number 13. And Norrie at 1 game all in the opening set. And it's 40-15 to Lestienne at the moment on his serve. But yeah, there are some spectators in the crowd, not many, got to be honest, and I suspect there's not going to be many added to this number of people in the crowd, but still it's underway. 11th seed Cameron Norrie, British #1, and he's 2-1 down in the first set.
Thank you, David. Plenty more of Norrie to come, but as a little bonus, as that second set sort of took about 6 minutes, Woody, we get to stay together for a little bit longer to see if Rinky Hijikata, I mean, it's a must now. He has to hold serve in this first game of the third.
Steady the ship, doesn't he? Needs just a solid first serve. He doesn't need to try and play too good, and that can also happen, Gigi. I mean, how many times have we seen matches where perhaps the inexperienced player feel like they've got to play big tennis, and that's when some of those mistakes start to appear. So if he can just temper his game, get off to a good start here.
Well, to keep our spider theme going, you get drawn into the web of your opponent. They start weaving their web around you, and that's what he has to stay away from. So Hijikata, with that baseball cap on, reaches up and too deep off the first serve, looking to serve into the body of Tsitsipas. Serve out wide, serve and volley from Hijikata off the second serve. He stretches Tsitsipas. Oh, there's a change up. That worked.
Nicely done. And maybe this is part of the plan in this first game. The first round match, Gigi, he came to net a total of 53 times. He was a good win rate, 133 of those times that he approached the net. So he does have a liking to it. It's part of his repertoire. Let's see if he can sneak in again.
He'll be looking to. And here he comes. Crashes forward. The lob is up from Tsitsipas. That pushes Hijikata all the way back, but it doesn't find the court. And then we get the come on, and now we've got 40-love.
Nicely done. And if it works for you on several occasions, why not keep going with it? 40-love, this is the start he so desired.
Game points, and another serve and volley. Oh, he has to run back, doesn't need to play it. So he's made the change. It shows, Mark, that he's thinking clearly, because it can be a big old lonely place out there with the score running away from you, but he is thinking clearly. He's made the change and he's held serve.
Yep, and just that one game, just what you can draw from that, learn from it, and not be shy. You know, probably 3 of those 4 points, Gigi, I think it is, that he actually won from the net. Yep. So why not explore it further?
And what it also does is it reignites the crowd. And they're like, well, hang on a second, this fella's got a chance here, and off they go again. Yeah,
exactly. They've been a little muted, and look, they ride the roller coaster with the player. They're probably a little disappointed and maybe a tinge of sadness that second set went so quickly. They want to see a competitive match, and Rinky holding serve to love there. There's a few cries of the oi, oi, oi coming out.
And the posters are being waved, but everyone has to settle themselves because Tsitsipas is ready. And he serves that wide. It snapped back off the forehand side, but he switches the place so well, and he uses that wide serve to open up the court, and he takes the point. Tsitsipas having a little mutter to himself. 1 hour and 6 minutes on the clock, coming up to 10:30 in the evening. Cameron Norrie on court. We're going to bring you plenty of that. We have the two commentary teams that are able to cover a couple of matches and keep you up to date with all the results and the bits and pieces elsewhere, as Tsitsipas gathers together his balls, discards one, has one in his hand, gives it a bit of a bounce, a little bit more, and now the third seed crunches the top of the net. So he switches round, takes the first one that's offered to him, but he's not so sure, so he takes another couple. Each player has their routine. Leading by 2 sets to love. Thunders looking to come in off the back of that serve, but thunders it into the net. Listening to Tennis Breakfast, you may have found us via BBC Sounds this morning, or maybe just now. Lovely to have you with us, with you every morning from 7 in the morning. Oof, great depth from Tsitsipas off the forehand.
Crunched the forehand, the return. Unfortunately, not carrying a lot of weight. It wasn't out the meat of the racket, and sat up nicely for Stefanos.
Misses down the tee. He wasn't so sure, but that was the call that came from the electronic line calling. Up he goes again, out wide it goes. The backhand from Hijikata, the inside, and Winnie, you heard the yep. Again, it's that wide serve, opens up the court, finishes it off with a 1-2 punch. A Greek flag is flying, and it's 1 game all, so no trouble. And what that does, Woody, is it immediately flips that pressure back on Hijikata, saying, right, you held your first service game, but look how comfortable that was for me. Now it's back to you.
Yeah, that's been consecutive love service games for Tsitsipas, and I think even the one before that to go up for love was very smooth for him.
Serve and volleying again and paying dividends again, Hijikata.
That's the option available for Hijikata. It doesn't stand tall, it's 5'10", but he has a sneaky quick serve for his height.
5'10" tall, the Australian. Hijikata settles, reaches, in comes Tsitsipas, plays the backhand. Hijikata's kept the back on. Now he charges forward, the lob is up. Hijikata goes back, lets it bounce. Oh, it lands in, but it swerves off the baseline. But then into the net off the slice off the backhand side from Tsitsipas, and he's pumped up and he's talking to himself, and the Aussie fans in green are standing up and they're sort of fist pumping towards their man. And look, there's still an awful lot of work to do and an awful long way to come back, but there's a different feel around the Rod Laver Arena.
Maybe he's trying to channel the effort from 2 days ago.
Well, that worked, didn't it?
Yeah.
Different opponent, but it worked. Deep serve from Hijikata, who's being kept pushed back now. He'll look for an opportunity if he can to come in. Oh, he didn't need to, because it's a swing and a miss from Tsitsipas.
40 love.
Well, the time between points now is starting to quicken up. Momentum in the favour of Hijikata, striding very quickly up to the baseline.
Game points. Thunders it into the net. The ball girl scoops it up and scurries across the net, and that sort of wide stance from Tsitsipas with a deep bend in the knee as he waits, as Hijikata tosses up the wall into the body. Body serve. Tsitsipas tries to get out of the way, goes straight through Tsitsipas. So he holds to love. The Aussies in green are on their feet. He goes to get his towel, and he leads by 2 games to 1 on serve. Now, we mentioned that we were going to mix things up a little bit. So with the arrival of Cameron Norrie on court 13, Annabelle Croft has come back from breakfast. Was breakfast nice?
It was delicious. best place I've found so far, Gigi.
Oh, right.
Yeah.
Excellent. Marvellous.
Smashed avocado, poached egg on toast. Can't beat a sort of brunchy breakfast like that.
Channeling sort of Melbourne there?
Yeah, I was
Sort of
actually. Exactly what I was doing.
Did you have any grilled tomato on the side there, Annabelle?
No, I didn't. But a little bit of onion, a bit of sort of watercress on the top. It was, and a few flakes of chilli. It was perfection. And the best
Smell
coffee
it
that I
now.
found in Salford.
Well,
I'm
wow.
taking you there for a coffee, Gigi.
Well, I've never drunk coffee in my life, so that
okay,
will
well,
be,
I'll take you for a tea
that'll be a
then.
big moment. But I can do the avocado and the poached
Okay,
egg
yeah.
and all the bits and pieces, so I can definitely work on that. So so this is the plan. Now Annabelle's had breakfast and has come back. We've got two teams. Annabelle and I are going to be keeping an eye on Tsitsipas Hijikata, early stages of the third set on serve. And David, yourself and Woody are on Norrie watch.
Yeah, we are. And Cameron Norrie, I hope he's had a couple of nice espressos this afternoon, because he's going to need them. But late night tennis here at the Australian Open, it's not something we're unused to here. And Norrie is 2-3 down here in the opening set. 15 all on his serve. He did have a break point in the previous game, and on that break point he got lobbed. He ran all the way back, got in the rally, and then he fluffed a backhand, and he ended up losing the game. So he's a bit frustrated, and I kind of feel like Mark, one of the issues for Norrie here is he'll need to guard against trying to hurry, trying to rush in order to get a decent bedtime, because, you know, basically you've got to try and win the match to stay in the Australian Open. But it must be really easy, I'd have thought, to end up thinking, well, let's try and hit a few more winners here and get this over with as quickly as we can, so I don't have to hang around past midnight.
Yeah, Cam usually, you know, is one that just builds that momentum and some rhythm. He's not certainly a player that comes out and just fires away into the open court, and he does have to play with some patience against the French opponent.
2-3 down is Norrie here, 15-30, and he's hitting his cross-court forehand, coming in, playing a forehand volley, but that sits up for Lestienne, and he's hit a forehand down the line, and I think he's made that back edge of the line. He has indeed. These are 2 break points.
The move forward was a sound decision. That first volley, he just basically put it back up to the middle of the court, and Lestienne threaded the pass.
So he's got 2 break points as the man for France, and Cameron Norrie not enjoying this very much at the moment, up against an opponent 30 years of age, but who's making his Grand Slam debut.
At 30 years of age.
That's right. He won his first Grand Slam match on Monday. So here he is hitting his backhand cross-court against the British number 1, Norrie, who hits his forehand cross-court, and Lestienne hits his backhand into the net on this occasion. Lestienne has tried to qualify at Grand Slams in the past without any success. In 2022, last year, he lost second round of qualifying at Wimbledon, lost to Jack Sock, and the US Open, and also in the second round he lost there. In the first round of Roland Garros, all in qualifying. Serves down the centre does Norrie. He's still got break point against him. He's wailing away with these big forehands. This one down the line. Now he'll hit his backhand slice and come in behind it. And a passing shot attempt by Lestienne's hit down the line with the backhand, but that goes long. So 2 break points saved there for Cameron Norrie. And I think we've got a break point on Rod Laver Arena, Gigi.
We have the second of 2, and it's for Rinky Hijikata. I mean, what a turnaround after being bageled in the second set. 30-40. A first serve missed from Stefanos Tsitsipas. So a chance for Hijikata to go 3-1 up in the third. And boy, would this get the crowd going. Second serve, Hijikata takes it early with the back, and it's going to float long. That is going to float long. So David, the break points have been saved, and it's deuce in the 4th game of the third set.
Okay, thank you very much. And here's Norrie at deuce now. 2-3 down, first set. Been in the form of his life recently, but I'm not entirely sure these conditions will be to his liking. He'd probably like nice warm conditions in the middle of the day, as he hits a lovely backhand passing shot down the line there, Norrie, as Lestienne was attacking the net with a backhand down the line. That was a good counter-attack, Mark Woodford.
It certainly was. Not able to be totally balanced on the backhand pass. That tremendous racket head work to control it up the line.
Lestienne never beaten a top 20 player before. This would be a first if he could do it. He's at a career high ranking of number 55. He doesn't have a coach as he hits his backhand down the centre. It's advantage Norrie to level up at 3 games all here in the opening set. Backhand poked down the line by Norrie, but that goes long.
Yes. And just plays almost identical to a fellow Frenchman. That's Benoit Paire. The backhand is similarly produced. Two-hander backhand. Plenty of disguise, able to change direction quite easily.
Serve down the middle at choose from Norrie. Then a forehand hooked cross court. And that one goes... Hold on a minute. The Hawkeye Live just said a fault in the middle of a rally when the ball had landed about 6 feet in. And so umpire, I think it's Maria Cicak, saying, let's do this all over again, shall we? So Deuce, backhand hit down the middle by Lestienne, and they trade down the middle of the court. There are still some fans in the crowd here, and this time Hawkeye Live pipes up at the right time and shows that the forehand had gone long from Norrie. So this is the 3rd break point against his serve at the moment. And you have to win Grand Slam matches and matches on the tour generally in all different sorts of ways, don't you? Sometimes there's a fantastic atmosphere and it's a buzz and it's exciting. Other times like this, it's late at night, it's damp and drizzly, and you'd probably rather be somewhere else.
No doubt it makes you yearn for the time when you can get to play at your own home slam.
Yeah, under the roof or something like that. And a good part of the order of play. So the players at the moment are just not sure what's going on here. They're walking around the back of the court. They don't seem to quite know what's going on. It's 3-2 Lestienne, an advantage to him. And the players pulling away again. I'm not quite sure what's going on.
I think it was another disturbance with Hawkeye.
Right. So Hawkeye Live has decided it's had enough of this weather. Maybe some water's got in the system.
Well, it's maybe it needs to be hydrated. I mean, it's had to contend with so many changing weather conditions, David.
Yep, they're still having to delay here on court number 13 because the technology isn't working, and umpire Maria Cicak's on the walkie-talkie. She's saying that there's a problem. 3-2 first set, advantage Lestienne. He's got break point, Shishi, but we can't carry on at the moment if anything else could go wrong.
Wonderfully, Annabelle and I are here. We have no problems. Everyone's fine. The only problem that Rinky Hijikata has, Annabelle, is he wasn't able to convert on one of the 2 break points he had on the Tsitsipas serve, and now at 2-all he's love 30 down.
Yeah, that can often happen, can't it, when you've sort of created opportunities for yourself. He just wasn't able to convert, didn't control one of those big aggressive backhand returns of serve on one of the break points, and Tsitsipas got himself out of trouble and now is ready to pounce once again. But I'm admiring Hijikata's attitude out here. You know, he's a former college player and has that sort of plucky spirit. He's really going to try and enjoy his time out here on the big show court, taking on a big name. He's so inexperienced at this level, but he's making a good account of himself.
Yeah, he really, really is. You're with Tennis Breakfast, day 3 of the Australian Open. The headlines, I want to say that you're waking up to, but that is a lion. Rafa Nadal is out, the defending champion, with a hip problem. He completed his match against Mackenzie McDonald. The American played so well, but Nadal was not Nadal we're used to seeing as Tsitsipas runs around the backhand, plays the inside out forehand and gets triple break point. And Emma Raducanu lost in straight sets to Coco Gauff a little earlier.
Yeah, this is a good forehand from Tsitsipas. He's looking very balanced. He's got his focus back again. I think it just dropped away for just a short period of time. Got the footwork around that ball. and then plays that really big forehand into the open space as well.
Let's see if he can get the break. Tsitsipas, he's at love 40, and then we'll be returning to court 13 and Cameron Norrie. First serve missed from Rinky Hijikata, who uses his shirt to wipe the sweat away. Tsitsipas, mouth half open, waiting, going foot to foot, slamming the forehand, but into the net, and he can't believe it, and he just sort of stares up at his box.
Yeah, he was annoyed with missing that return of serve because no real reason to miss it. It got a little bit tucked up and close. Didn't quite get that one right, not enough height over the net. He's looking down at the court after he missed that, and then he's looked across at his dad, who's shadow swinging in the box, telling him what he should have done. He's playing every single point from the sidelines, isn't he?
And earlier he was gripping the knee of Mark Philippoussis, who's a couple of seats away from him. So Tsitsipas with another chance here to break. We'll then be back with court 13 with Woody and David and with the British number one. The flicker, the back, and it's loose from Tsitsipas, who lets another chance pass him by, and just one of the break points remains.
Yeah, it's fluctuating a little bit at the moment, isn't it? And they have such an intense relationship, him and his dad, but every single point it's zoned in there, just checking on what dad's doing. It must be quite sort of draining, I would imagine, emotionally, where you feel as if he's playing a lot of his matches for his dad.
Third break point opportunity. Hijikata looking to come in off the serve, but he nets, so he goes back. He wipes some sweat away with a sweatband on the left wrist, bounces the ball with the left hand as Tsitsipas, standing a long way back, that wide stance on his toes, jumps up the backhand into the net. The half volley play by Hijikata. Can Tsitsipas pass me? Yes, he can. There we go. There is the breakthrough that Tsitsipas was looking for. He saved 2 break points on his serve. He closes out the game on the Hijikata serve, and David Tsitsipas looking very comfortable once again under the roof on the Rod Laver Arena, leading by 2 sets and a break, 3-2.
Thank you very much, Gigi. And meanwhile, Cameron Norrie has been allowed to resume after the gremlins in the Hawkeye Live system, and he managed to see off the break points against him to level up at 3 games all. Let's see if he can exert some pressure of his own now. Oh, that's a very strange little shot on the forehand side from Lestian. He's brought in Norrie, now he's lobbed Norrie, and he's gone long. He's a very creative player, if that point is anything to go by, because he had a mid-court forehand to smash away and decided to play a drop shot and maybe bargained without the fleet-footedness of Cameron Norrie and didn't quite get the lob right.
Well, I have to admit, I haven't seen a whole lot of Lestian play, but straight away I really feel like he's another version of a Benoit pair. I mean, we're seeing him use a forehand slice like we did on the previous point. The serve, he comes around the outside, and it's like he throws in mid-court balls with hardly any pace. He baits you to come forward. The backhand is very similar as well.
Now after Hawkeye Live stopped working, now Constant Lestian has got a young ball girl out onto the baseline with a big towel. Is it raining again? I have no idea, but anyway, there's a ball girl who's wiping the baseline, and I think there is some concern actually over some rain in the air, because they're mopping up the courts.
The lines themselves,
so
maybe affecting Hawkeye.
Maybe. Well, the other thing is, Mark, if there is a bit of rain in the air, we can't tell because we're underneath the roof inside the Rod Laver Arena watching this particular match from afar, and if there is rain in the air, you can't play on these courts, can you, when there's any moisture on the surface?
No, not at all. And now chair umpire just going up to consult with Cam. I think she has accepted that Lestian's more than voiced his displeasure, having to pause the amount of times.
So, love 15 on the Lestian serve. It's 3 games apiece. What's the score with you at the moment, Gigi?
We, under our wonderful roof, thousands of miles away, where it's sunny, 30 love. 3-2 in favour of Stefanos Tsitsipas. And elsewhere, because there are still matches. So I should say Adrian Manarino, I don't think I gave that result out. He came through against John Isner. That was a good result for Adrian Manarino.
Good, isn't it?
Marta Kostyuk came through. Let me give you one more. The Wimbledon champion, Elena Rybakina, who doesn't think she gets enough kind of people talking about her. We can confirm that the 22nd seed is through for the loss of just 3 games. So I think, David, the tournament, I know we're talking about rain now, but they'll be quite pleased that they've managed to get through as many matches as they have at this stage.
Yeah, no, I think you're right there. And Lestien's irritation is there for all to see. He just put a volley into the net mark and then he swatted a loose ball away, and I don't know whether that was in the direction of the umpire or someone like that, but that was a bit... It wasn't in the direction of the umpire, but it's somebody that's annoyed him. And here comes Norrie now, putting the ball away with a drop shot. Lestien rushes in, lobs Norrie and misses long. This is 2 break points for Norrie. Lestien is continuing to jabber away at the umpire. He's not happy. I don't think he's happy at being out there at the moment.
Not at all. And again, taking the times that
he's refusing
seen
to play.
Benoit Paire.
He sat down. He sat
very
down.
much Benoit Paire.
It's 15-40 on his serve, and he's just refusing to play. So we'll see what. Somebody in the crowd, I don't know whether you caught that, says, "Come on, mate, we've been waiting all day for this." And Lestien's just sitting on his chair. 15-40 down. Cameron Norrie's ready to play. He's on the baseline, saying, "Come on, let's get on with it." What a waste of money, somebody chanting. The locals are not happy. And Maria Cicak, the umpire, is out to have a chat with Cameron Norrie on the baseline to see whether it's safe. And again, they're getting the towels out, and Norrie's testing his footwork on the surface here.
And that's always the way to go for the players, just to move their tennis shoe, sand shoe, across the lines. And it looked like there was a bit of grip there from the pair that Cam Norrie is wearing. But this is unusual. Cam wants to keep the ball going here, and it's Lestien defiantly sitting down.
Yes, this is all a bit awkward because there are spectators out there, and yet now they're heckling Lestien as he comes out with his racket. He decides he will play after all. 15-40 down.
I wonder what the response will be if Cam does break serve here.
Second serve bounces up to the backhand of Norrie, who's got break point here for a 4-3 lead. He punches the ball back down the centre. Big hitting cross court by Lestien, who comes in. He's lobbed though. Oh dear. Now he hits his forehand. Norrie's in at the net, and he wins the point, and Lestien's going to be fuming. Norrie's broken for 4-3. Clench with a left fist from him, and he's going to go and sit down with a break of serve lead. And Lestien's bad mood is about to get worse. Meanwhile, we got break points on Rod Laver Arena, Gigi.
Where Stefanos Tsitsipas, the world number 4 and the 3rd seed, converts for 5-2. And Annabel Croft, the race is almost run for Rinky Hijikata. Tsitsipas had that slight sort of lapse in concentration, but he's fully back focused and he's a game away.
Yeah, he's starting to home in on that finish line fairly rapidly, isn't he? And he's done a good job of keeping his very spirited opponent at bay here. And when he's on fire and really timing the ball as well as he can do from the back of the court and on the front foot, looking to come forward, really kind of stepping into that forehand side particularly. You know, he's such a force on any tennis court, but he just has these kind of slight fluctuations, which I think is what's prevented him from winning his first Grand Slam title. And it hasn't been easy for him, has it? I remember Gigi when he reached that first semi-final here and beat, I think it was Federer along the way. And he always thought that the Grand Slams were going to come quite quickly after that. And of course, he did reach the finals at the French, led 2-0 against Djokovic, but just hasn't quite happened. But and it's, well, having said that, it's not going to get any easier, is it, with all the young players coming through? But anyhow, at the moment, he's looking in good form against Hijikata.
Yeah, he's a game away elsewhere. And last year's finalist Danielle Collins, she is 3-5 down to Karolina Muchova. She got points for 4-5, so she keep it at just the one break of serve. I mentioned that Elena Rybakina, the Wimbledon champion, is through to the next round. Denis Shapovalov, he's a set-up, and Taro Daniel, and they are locked at, well, no, it's 4-3 now, Shapovalov in the tiebreak in the second set. Hubert Hurkacz is looking to come back against Lorenzo Sonego. The Italian took the first set, but now the Italian is serving to take them into a second set tiebreak. And I mentioned earlier that Richard Gasquet, who beat Cameron Norrie in the Auckland final, is out. He lost to his fellow countryman Ugo Humbert. We're going to see if we can see this one out here on the Rod Laver Arena under the roof, because Stefanos Tsitsipas at 5-2 and 15 love. Let's make that 30 love. Is strolling towards the finish line.
Yeah, he's looking really confident now, and that forehand is really starting to fire, and Hijikata's not doing enough to put Tsitsipas in a defensive position. And on the front foot, as I said before, and also his serve is really got good placement on it at the moment. Tsitsipas is hitting his marks.
Yoshihito Nishioka has won through, and I believe he faces Mackenzie McDonald in the next round, who defeated Rafa Nadal earlier today, as Stefanos Tsitsipas brings up the first of 3 match points. The 3-time Australian Open semi-finalist, match points. He'll be very pleased with his evening's work if he can get the job done on one of these next 3 points. The 24-year-old winds himself up, looking to go through 2 rounds and not having dropped a set. It was 6-3, 6-4, 7-6 against Conte Alice in his first round. Now 6-3, 6 love, 5-2, match point, second serve. Hijikata slams it into the net, and it is, there's no celebration, and then there's a little fist pump from Stefanos Tsitsipas. The unknown of Rinky Hijikata has been handled perfectly by Stefanos Tsitsipas. And just one, Annabelle, on Tsitsipas. Not that many people talking about him coming into this, but he is a 3-time semi-finalist at Melbourne Park.
Yeah, he clearly loves playing in Australia. He loves the conditions here. He seems to be very popular. Just listen to how the crowd are responding to this win. And, he's hungry for success. But, things have not always been going his way, have they, on the tour generally? He really wants a Grand Slam title so badly, but it's going to be very hard work. And we're just watching his dad looking very relieved. I mean, he was getting a little bit stressed for a period of time in this match, but actually, ultimately, if you look at the scoreline, he dropped just 5 games in this match. So he's got to be pretty happy with his performance out here.
There will be an Apostolos just taking all the thanks and the praise from everyone in the boxes. Yes, I did well.
He did play half of it from the side. And it was his armchair tennis, wasn't it?
I've done really well. I've come through. So there we go, David. Tsitsipas is through, and the action on Rod Laver Arena concludes for the evening.